Welcome to Biochemistry Simplified, where science becomes simple and engaging. Today, we're entering the world of biostatistics, a powerful tool used to interpret biological data. Whether you're analyzing experiments, clinical trials, or surveys, this video will equip you with the essential concepts and real-life applications you need. So stay tuned, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more academic clarity.
Again, for very important, exciting topics. Today we'll be looking at biostatistics for biological sciences. You know, this course is born out of curiosity, a lot of questions from graduate and undergraduate students wanting to know what exact statistical analysis could be applied to their biological research. So in this topic, it will basically be providing fundamental and foundational understanding of biostatistics with a focus on its application to biological data. It covers statistical concepts, experimental designs, and data analysis methods essential for conducting and interpreting research in biological sciences. So at the end of this course, we'll be able to understand basic statistical concepts relevant to biological research, application of statistical techniques to analyze biological data, and the development of proficiency in experimental designs and interpretation of statistical results. It's important to note that in this part of the lectures, we will not be dealing with calculations or going into details of statistical programming and breakdown. We really just want to know what statistical analysis could be applicable to what biological data. So that's really our focus. And without much ado, let's just jump right in talking about the definition of biostatistics. So I would like to begin this morning by defining what biostatistic is. All right. So we look at the definition of biostatistics. That's where we operate is starting from today. Definition of biostatistics. So right now we say that biostatistics is the application of statistical methods to biological research. Okay, so pretty straightforward. Biostatistics, would like to put that down. Biostatistics is the application of statistical method to biological research. That's basically it. The key point here is application, and that's where our focus is. We want to know how statistical methods can be applied to biological research. Actually, in the field of this study, which is biostatistics, it combines biology, which is the study of living organisms, and statistics, which is the study of data, to help scientists make sense of data gathered from biological experiments, observations, and studies. Biostatistics help researchers to collect, analyze, and interpret data. So it does basically four things. It helps researchers to do, the first thing is to collect data, and the second is to what? Analyze the data collected. Analyze data, and we see the third, interpretation. It helps scientists to what? interpret the data from biological feeds. So all of this data is collected from biological feeds, such as it's collected from different biological feeds that you could group into medicine. So you have things like medicine, genomics. You also have uh, things like ecology, ecology, and then public health, etc. So on and so forth. These are different biological fields in which data can be collected from, analyzed, and interpreted. This is basically what biostatistics enables us to do. So in our next slide, we begin to look at why is biostatistics important in biological research, of what use it is actually, and we'll be looking at that right at the next slide. So we see the importance of biostatistics right here, and we say the number one on our list is saying understanding biological patterns and trends. All right, what's key in those point number one is patterns and trends. All right, and what that implies is that for biostatistics allow researchers to identify patterns and trends within biological data. For example, biostatisticians help scientists track how a disease spreads within a population or how different environments affect species growth. By finding these patterns, researchers gain insights that could lead to a new discovery or solution in health and environmental issues. So it helps biologists, scientists, and those in the biological science to understand patterns and trends. Point number two of importance is it guides decision making in public health and medicine. That's very key. In healthcare, biostatistics play a critical role in decision making. It helps scientists and doctors test new treatments, vaccines, or medications to see if they are safe and effective. By analyzing data, biostatisticians help determine the best medical practices and health policies that can improve patient outcomes and public health. Also, then biostatistics helps to design effective experiments. This is actually very critical to biological research. So it's essential in planning scientific experiments and helps researchers to decide how to collect data, okay, how to what sample size to use, and which statistical methods to apply to make accurate conclusions. A well designed experiment does three basic things, and that's it reduces bias, as point number one here, and the point number two is that it minimizes errors, and of course, it ensures reliable results. All right, and point number four is that it analyzes complex biological data. A key word here is complex because biological data could be very, very, very complex. And because it could be complex, especially with modern advancements in genomics, environmental sciences, and epidemiology, biostatistics provide tools and methods to simplify and analyze large data sets, enabling researchers to draw meaningful conclusions about complex biological processes or genetic information. Ensuring uh, accurate results and conclusion is the last point on my list, in which we use biostatistics to help us ensure that conclusions drawn from biological research are based on solid evidence. By applying statistical tests, researchers can determine whether their results are due to actual biological effects or just random chance. The accuracy is essential for making reliable scientific conclusions and avoiding misleading information. So, in general, biostatistics is vital for interpreting the data generated in biological studies and for advancing our understanding of biological processes, medical treatments, and public health practices. It allows scientists to convert complex data into useful insight that benefits both science and society. In our next slide, we begin to look at what types of data do we use in conducting biostatistics. Next slide. So right here we see types of data in biostatistics. Okay, so data in biological research can broadly be categorized into two, known as the qualitative data and the quantitative data, and that could further be classified into discrete and continuous data. We want to begin by looking extensively at the qualitative data. The qualitative data, as we can see here, is also known as categorical data, and that describes the characteristics or qualities that cannot be measured. The key word is that it cannot be measured with numbers but can be categorized. So this type of data helps in grouping or classifying observations based on specific attributes. Why it cannot be counted, it cannot be numbered, it cannot be measured. Examples of qualitative data in biology include species types such as birds, having different species of bird, mammals, reptiles. And we also have blood group as another example of qualitative data, whereby we have blood group A, blood group B, AB, and O. We also have the presence or absence of a disease during the research, and that could also be denoted by a positive or a negative sign. Now, the types of qualitative data, we have different types of qualitative data we'll begin to look at in the next slide. So we have types of qualitative data, yeah? And the types of qualitative data, we have nominal data and ordinal data. The nominal data, they are categories with no inherent order or ranking. That means they do not have any particular order. No particular order is a key word. So, for instance, species types, which we said includes reptiles, mammals, and birds, and blood group types, which includes blood group A, B, AB, and O, are all nominal data. Why? Because they do not have any particular order. Then we now have ordinal data as also a type, one of the types of qualitative data. And in these, they have specific order, but they do not have any precise measurement scale. So they lack precise measurement scale, for example, of this type of qualitative data. Under the ordinal data, we have a pain scale whereby you feel some form of pain, and the pain could be mild, moderate, and severe. You cannot say I have 100% pain feeling because it cannot be measured, it cannot be numbered. It's ordinal because there is a ranking, all right, a ranking from mild, severe, and moderate. So you have this ranking going from mild to severe, but the difference between each level is not measured. So you cannot measure the level of pain between a severe or a moderate pain or a mild pain. So the importance of um, qualitative data in biological research. Why is it important? Who cares about qualitative data. Why do we want to do qualitative research in the first place? Qualitative data is important for classifying subjects into categories, and this enables us to compare and see patterns, frequencies, or associations among groups. For example, knowing the distribution between different blood types in a population could help healthcare providers manage blood banks effectively. So it compares and makes you to see the patterns of frequencies. Example of qualitative data in biology, we have uh, okay, that's we'll be moving next now to quantitative data, which is the next broad category of data in biology. Quantitative data. So welcome to Biochemistry Simplified. Today we're going to continue our lesson. We looked at that and we saw the two broad types of biological data that is analyzed in biological sciences, and we say we have qualitative data and quantitative data. We went ahead to this right straight in details on qualitative data. Today we'll be beginning on the other part of the major data, and we are looking at quantitative data. So right here we are looking at quantitative data. Quantitative data. And this type of data is also known as numerical data. Numerical data. So quantitative data, also known as numerical data. Quantitative data actually refers to numerical values that can be measured or counted. That's the emphasis. Okay? It can be measured or counted. So when we say quantitative data, what do we actually mean when we say quantitative data? They are the set of data. So it refers to data that um, uh, can be numbered or counted or measured. So we'll just write that keynote down. Quantitative data, quantitative data refers to the data to refers to numerical values, numerical values that can be measured, or counted. That's very key. It is used to quantify characteristics, allowing for mathematical operations and statistical analysis. Quantitative data is actually useful in establishing relationship, trends, and performing precise measurements. So measurement is key. Okay, you want to know the precise measurement. You don't want to know it by category or ranking, but you want to know that what is it, the exact number. Okay, so that's what quantitative data deals with. So we have examples of quantitative data. So examples of quantitative data, we'll see right here. Examples of quantitative data in biological sciences. Quantitative data in biology. Okay, let me leave it as examples of quantitative data in biology. Number one example, we have height of a plant. Height of a plant. Height of plants. The height of plants can actually be measured, and can be measured in what? centimeter. Another example we see is body temperature. Okay, you want to take the body temperature. You don't want to do it by ranking mild, moderate, or severe. You want to know the exact number, and body temperature can be measured in degrees Celsius. And um, uh, the another example is number of offspring produced by an organism. Number of offspring produced by an organism. Okay, number of offspring produced by an organism. So that's example. It has to do with number, numerical value. So we look at the types of quantitative data, just like we saw the types of quantitative data in the types of qualitative data. Quantitative data also have different types and categories. So in the next slide, we begin by looking at these different types and categories of what quantitative data. Next slide. So in this next slide, we'll be looking at the types of quantitative data. The types of quantitative data. And the types of quantitative data here includes uh, discrete data, and there are majorly two types. One is your discrete data and continuous data. Discrete data and continuous data. That's the majorly basic two types of quantitative data there is. You have discrete data and what? Quantitative data. So what is discrete data? Discrete data discrete data represents counts or whole numbers. These values are separate and cannot be subdivided. The key word there is it cannot be subdivided. It is discrete. So discrete data, it represents counts or whole numbers. It represents counts or whole numbers, and these values are separate and cannot be subdivided. So it has values that are separate. These values are separate and cannot be subdivided. Keyword is that it cannot be subdivided. For example, the number of leaves on a plant or the number of patients visiting a clinic each day are examples of discrete data. Why? Because you cannot have half a leaf or half a patient. It has to be whole numbers. They are separate on their own and it cannot be subdivided. You cannot say we have 10 and 10.5 patients today, or 10 and a half, or 10 one quarter patient attending the clinic today. It has to be whole numbers. Then continuous data, which is the next type of quantitative data. Continuous data. Continuous data represents measurements that can take on any value within a range. Okay, So this represents measurements. It represents measurements that can take up any value within a range. They can take on, any value within a range, within a range. That is, continuous data can actually be divided into smaller increments. Unlike discrete data that cannot be subdivided, continuous data can be further divided into smaller increments, like weight or height. For example, a person's weight could be 167.5 centimeter. It could also be 167.55, 167.555, and so on. So it can take on any value within a range. It actually can be subdivided. So why is it important? Why is quantitative data important to biological research? We'll be seeing that in the next slide. So the importance, why is quantitative data important? Importance of quantitative data. That's what we are looking at right now. Importance of quantitative data. Of what use is quantitative data to biological research? Quantitative data allows researchers to measure variables accurately, and they perform calculations to test hypotheses. All right, that is one major importance of what quantitative data. It allows researchers to measure variables. So one basic important is that it allows researchers to measure variables, all right, accurately and perform calculations to test hypotheses. So for example, tracking temperature variations over time can help study the effects of climate on plant growth. All right, it allows researchers to measure variables accurately and perform calculations to test what hypothesis, which is one of the key areas in research methodology. Okay, so that's pretty much it. We've looked at the discrete data, we've looked at the uh, continuous data. All right, so discrete data can also be referred to as countable values that are separate and distinct. They often represent whole numbers. Okay, like we said, they cannot be subdivided. They are used for variables where only specific values make sense. All right, examples of discrete data like we saw: number of petals on a flower is another example. Number of cells observed under a microscope is another example. Each cell in a microscope entity cannot be split into what? Fraction. Then we have number of species in a survey. That's for discrete data as we can see. Then discrete data, how is it analyzed? What statistical tool do you use for the analysis of discrete data? So how is discrete data analyzed? Statistical tools for analysis of discrete data. Statistical tool for analysis of discrete data. So discrete data is often analyzed using things like frequency counts, bar charts, and the chi-square. So in case you are doing a research that has to do with discrete data, like number of patients, number of animals, things that cannot be divided or subdivided into fractions or split into fractions, you use discrete data for such analysis. The tools you use that are commonly used are techniques like um, frequency counts. So use statistical techniques like frequency counts to count the frequency, how many times it appears. Things like frequency counts. You have things like your bar charts. All of this you can use discrete data, and you have your chi-square test. Your chi-square test. These are examples of tools you can use for discrete data. So how about quantitative data? Okay, so let me just do this like a table here. I could do this like a table. Take my eraser and wipe this. So what we have here is statistical tools for analysis. Then we could have just right here discrete data. All right, discrete data, and right here we could have continuous data. Okay, continuous data. So why this is for qualitative analysis? This other one will be for quantitative analysis. So the tools we use for um, continuous data are techniques or tools like your histogram, and you have continuous data that can be subdivided into fractions and further broken down into different sub units. You use things like histogram. Then you have regression analysis. Regression analysis. Then you also have t-test. You can use your t-test. Okay, you can use your t-test. You can also use ANOVA. Okay, so analysis of variance, ANOVA. This is your analysis of variance. So you can use ANOVA. So continuous data allows for precise calculation, trends, and analysis in biological research. And all of this is under the quantitative analysis. Let me break it down like the other one. It's under the quantitative analysis. Okay. Quantitative analysis. Okay. And all of this is right here. So, all right. So this frequency counts, bar charts, chi-square are under qualitative analysis. Histogram regression, t-test, analysis of variance, which is your ANOVA, is under quantitative analysis. Though that's basically the types of important data we measure in biological sciences, and the tools we use, statistical tools that we use to analyze the data. We've talked about what the data are, and in our next set of lectures, we'll begin to look at the data collection and sampling